very warm welcome to everybody to Inam's Kickoff 2022. For those who don't know me, I'm Oliver Hasse. I'm Managing Director of Inam since October 2021. And I have the great pleasure and honor to present to you not only what's been happening in the past, i.e. last year with Inam, because it's been, despite the fact that it's been impacted by Corona, obviously, it's been a very eventful year for us, but also give you a brief view into the future, what's coming up next year. And there is, you may have heard it or read it already, there is great news as regards the activities that Inam is providing. But before diving into all these topics, allow me to move on and give you a brief overview. So we are getting a short welcome both from myself and those who know Inam. I apologize to you right away because I'll briefly summarize what the network is about to those that don't know it yet, because we have a few attendants who are relatively new to Inam and the network. And as I said, then we'll be looking back, we'll be looking ahead, and to conclude, we'll offer the opportunity to network in such a way that we have breakout rooms hosted by 5 Inam members, and including myself. So Ferdinand Rudolf Bartels, Tonino Greco, Ralf Westerheide, Ran Escher, and myself will be hosting the rooms, and you can discuss anything related to Inam or the work we do, or with a view to the company, let's say either Continental or Sony or Bosch, their relations and their benefits from Inam. So come with questions, and it's supposed to be reasonably informal. So I hope that this will be a good opportunity to learn more in an informal way about the network. But now, without much ado, let me pass the word to Ferdinand, the chairman of the board of Inam, and may I say also one of the masterminds of many activities that we've implemented in the past. Ferdinand, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Oliver. Thank you for the kind words. A few words on 2021, the year that's over now. Certainly in my case, I didn't feel in any way like a mastermind of Inam in that year for a number of reasons. Despite that, and maybe because of it, 2021 was a very successful year for Inam. Despite many things, looking at the facts, the network is growing, has been grown in 2021 very, very nicely. So that's as we carry the name network in our name, Inam, to having a growing number of members, not only startups, which are very precious to us, of course, and we welcome all of them. Also corporate members, SME members. So the structure of Inam has become much more stable over the last 12 months, and that's highly appreciated, and a high welcome to all the new members in the team here. In the beginning of the year, and I might not get the timing particularly right, we had still some issues with the Corona crisis. We didn't know how it's going to go. We applied for a number of funds, and luckily we all got them. That helped our financing situation significantly, which was extremely positive. But really, really proud I am that we succeeded to get the Gründerstipendium. And Oliver, you have to help me if there is an English term for that thing. I'm not aware. I only know it under the name Gründerstipendium.
Well, I think suffice it to say we call it Berlin Startup Stipend or something like that.
But that's the name that we came up with, right? That's not the official or so. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I think Oliver, you're going to mention something about that later. So I'm not going to go deeper into that, but many of the long-standing members and also the board members of Inam know that that this program has been very precious to me, something which was very, very important to me, that we as the Inam network are getting this, because this is something which for me is for us the next level of a network, that besides just, and I put this in brackets, just networking, we can provide real tangible services to startups. And as you all know, this is something which is mostly what motivates me. It's not giving speeches or so and being introduced in nice words. What really motivates me is every single euro, dollar, easy to say, every single dime of money that startups find from investors or strategic partners to invest into their business, to grow their business, to expand, to succeed as much as they possibly can. Every single collaboration, every single project that accelerates the ideas of these startups and brings them faster to the market, or brings the product faster to the market. This is what in former times I always said, that our job is to accelerate innovations. And as we all know, money does. And the Gründerstipendium is one element, not only to pay a little bit of money to some startups, it's also an element to combine that with really practical services and practical benefits for the startups that are eligible to participate. So that's something that really makes me proud that we achieved that. It was really great after we failed to get it 2 years ago, I admit openly. So 2 years ago in the first round, this was probably the biggest disappointment I had in my time as head of the board of Inam. So I have in 2021 the moment of for me, the biggest success of the Inam network. So that is a big step for me. We had other changes. I start with a personal one. One of the reasons why I wasn't much of a mastermind and much of a support to the Inam network in this year, that I decided to have my own experience with advanced materials, having a pretty stupid bicycle accident and some time in the hospital, and then enjoy carrying around some titanium in my body now. That's something I would not want to repeat and wouldn't wish anybody to do the same. It's not a good idea to take your bike into a railway track. Don't try that. Not advisable. It took me some time to get out of it, pretty much 3 months of the last year, which I was totally out. But I'm recovered now, and I promise you in 2022, I will be getting closer to Inam and closer to the network again. So this is at least my goal for 2022. Much, much more important was that Antonia, who has headed Inam for some years and headed Inam very, very successfully, is on maternity leave, as you all know, and has a baby. And I'm very happy and proud, and congratulations from my side to her and her little family now. And one of the successes of our work in last year was that we had a seamless transition from Antonia's time, and I'm very proud and happy that Oliver is on board here. I think that this is normally in small teams, and Inam still is a small team. These transitions are not always easy, but we managed to have one here which really went so absolutely smoothly, and I think that's a sign. That's because we have a great team. This is really, really wonderful, that supports the work very, very much, and it was very, very well prepared from Antonia before the transition took place, and Oliver was there at the right time, picked up everything, and with your experience, you were able to keep things moving without any interruption, maybe here and there even accelerating a few things. So that's pretty wonderful. One and then last words towards the general situation. We had some events. One of them was today. A lot of international events, a lot of China events. As you know, I'm quite active in that field also. And the pandemic situation and the numerous online conferences are taking their toll. We all see that. What we see at the moment is that startups in the field of advanced materials or deep tech startups generally enjoy a pretty favorable environment in their home region. So European startups in Europe, that works very well with investors and partners and so on. So in average, at least, it works quite well, but we see also that the situation is difficult for startups that have a very international business that need expansion into Asian countries with no ability to travel. This is a restriction, and we see also, and it is quite understandable, that entrepreneurs coming from regions where there is not so much investment money available and not so much infrastructure available, and that they typically reach out to Europe, United States, and maybe to Asia, currently are experiencing difficult times accessing these markets, accessing these partners, because here again, there are limitations in online meetings, what you can achieve. On the Inam side, we have tried to do the best what we can in making these online conferences as lively and as meaningful as possible, and also making our acceleration ATMACOM programs as meaningful as possible. And I think we have taken the most out of it. What's possible to achieve with such conference types has been achieved. The network of Inam is trying to do its best to help startups with internationalization needs through various programs. But I think all of us as a team, we are praying and hoping that this comes to an end after 2 years, and that travel is possible again, internationalization outside of Europe is possible again, and from outside into Europe is possible again, and to give the startups in our group and in our network the opportunity again to grow on a global scale as fast as they possibly can. Well, I'm constantly optimistic, so I would close with that, that I am confident and almost sure that 22 we will see a dramatic improvements in this regard. And I'm looking forward to a wonderful, successful 22 with many startups finding very substantial investments and growth potentials for their business, and for our network partners to find technologies and innovations within our network that really prove to be valuable for their business and for their various projects. Thank you so much, and have a very good meeting.
Thanks very much, Ferdinand, for the kind words, for the introduction, for the overview. I cannot agree more that it was an exceptionally smooth transition, and I do have to pass on the thanks to Taha and Chris, our team here, that have also brilliantly played their role in that and made it, I'd say, even easy to take over and continue to work for and with Inam. Let me share my screen, and as I said, we have some guests here that are not completely familiar with the organization, and allow me therefore to spend a couple of words on what we actually are and what we do. Inam is a network, an ecosystem of players in the advanced materials space, and our goal is to enable, as Ferdinand aptly said already, enable innovations in this space to come to the market. Therefore, we bring together corporates, startups, investors, research institutions, as well as small and medium enterprises, a key economic segment in Germany, to support this goal. We have over the years run a number of startup programs. The most well-known is the Advanced Materials Competition. Well-known because the other ones, especially the Advanced Materials Lab, hasn't been run. This is what Ferdinand hinted at as the Berlin Startup Stipend segment of our activities. And beyond that, we've built a nice ecosystem around the topic of advanced materials. We have on the one side investment partners which help us not only doing the trainings on investor readiness in our programs, but also screen our startups and where they see fit place investments. We have in our membership a wide range of industry members which cover all kinds of verticals, hence use cases for potential applications. We are very lucky to have one of the leading law firms in Germany on venture capital and in particular science-based startups on board, and a long-standing contributor to the debate, Weitenauer Rechtsanwälte. And of course, we've got lots of local support from Berlin through, on the one hand, their agency Berlin Partner, but also through the Senate, etc., etc. And this support may not be purely financial. It is often ideal and hence intangible. We also have a number of research partners on board, both in Berlin and beyond. And I think it would be good to say that we are also trying to expand in that space, just to be able to connect the ideas that come out of research best with the needs of our members as well as our investors. Needless to say, of course, we have a large number of startup members by now. Certainly those that are depicted here are not all of them. The box would have become too big. The number is constantly growing, and it's extremely exciting to talk to new startups and learn about their innovations, their technologies, but also their approaches to commercialization that they either plan or have successfully mounted already. We have, apart from the startup programs, a number of other activities that cater for the needs of other stakeholders in the ecosystem. We have introduced last year investors workshops, which is focusing mainly speaking on the broad challenge of deep tech hardware investments. We'll have, and I'll come to that later, we'll have 2 further ones in the first half year. We are aiming to make this into a regular event. We host roundtables on a number of different issues, and that is really, really open to debate what can be put into these. Oftentimes our members make suggestions. They have a specific topic that they would like to discuss in a, let's say, smaller round with experts. We have the Founders Hours, which cater for the needs of our startups. So once a month, they can tune in, they can dial in, or hopefully in the near future, they can also pass by. And we'll discuss any issue that they have encountered or that they would like to discuss, from simple things such as how do I market my company, to more complex things such as IP. Of course, we don't have all the experts there every time, but what we can try to do, if we cannot provide a solution right away, is to make connections to the experts in our network. We run innovation challenges, which is in a way a scouting and exercise combined with a competition, or culminating in a competition, run by, or usually initiated by, our corporate members. We have a very nice example of one of the challenges we ran last year with Continental. You'll hear about that shortly. We have a similar approach to early stage ideas, which is called Lab to Market, i.e. focusing specifically of emerging innovations from the university/research space. And we are having our Explorasia program, which is basically all about helping Berlin startups to expand their market footprint, or even change their location to Asian countries. So all in all, we have quite a number of different initiatives besides our startup programs, although it has to be said, the startup programs are really the core of our activity, and that is basically what drives the network and brings together all the good ideas. Now, starting our looking back into 2021, I'd like to welcome on the virtual stage Ran Escher of Contitech AG, who will tell us a bit about the innovation challenge that we ran, or the challenges, I could even say, but specifically the one that we ran in the last half year of 2021. Ran, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you for your kind words. Hello, everyone from my side. For somebody who don't know me, just a quick introductions about me and our companies. My name is Ran Escher. Responsible for partnership at Contitech. So we are members of Inam network since 2018. So for the first time, we're working closely with Antonia, and last year we have successfully run 2 innovation challenges with Inam. So the first year we had our challenges named as the automotive solutions for our business unit, and end of the years we have run the challenges that looking for sustainable materials, especially recycling polymer solutions. So from our side, absolutely a big thank you to Oliver, to Taha, to Inam colleagues for supporting us to go through the process, to guide us the strategies, how to working with startups together, and also successfully to finding our, let's say, looking one. And I will see from the process, it's a work very smoothly, have a very clear, straightforward timelines, and also the project management helping us to see to deliver like all the time the milestones which we agreed at the beginning, because before we are working with different also our internal teams, and for them it's also absolutely the great journey to discover this external world to working with startups, and our R&D colleagues is absolutely very, let's say, impressed, and how the speed and also the working spirits of working with the startups. For our last polymer challenges, we selected 4, let's say, final startups from UK, from Israel, from US. Thank for the great international network. Also from Inam, we have this very wide, let's say, footprint about the startups from different regions. And we, at the end, nominate the winners is the startups from the UK. And we have already NDAs in place with them, and will keeping further in our project team working closely with them. And one of the highlights is that our press release colleague is also very supporting from the beginning of the challenges, and has posted all those channels of Continental's account on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and also in name of partnership with Inam, as well as also marketing for the startups, and also our one of our board member, which is the CEO of our organizations, also even personally tweeted and the great news. So yeah, absolutely a great journey and experience to working with Inam, and looking forward further challenges this year too.
Thanks very much, Ran. So I learned from that, and we haven't been in touch because of the holidays since we finalized the challenge in December last year. So you're actually working not only with the winner, but also with the others.
Correct. Yes. So the winners, we have a defined project, and the further startups we have in the pitching round, we also find the teams from our business unit who are interested in there.
Okay, that's very good to hear. Thank you for your word. And then certainly it was a tight challenge. The timing was challenges, but it was very good fun. And I myself was impressed by the international responses that we got to our call, and also that we were managing to basically scout. That's certainly one of the advantages of Inam. And I guess initially I forgot to say that we do have a very international footprint, and that goes, of course, beyond Asia, which we're having a particular focus on with our Explorasia program. But as you said, Ran, the startups that were in the final round were from the US, from the UK, from Israel. So it has been quite a spread. I don't see any questions. So if anybody has questions to Ran, you can quickly ask them now in the chat, or else you can also, I guess, discuss it later on in the breakout room, right, Ran?
Correct. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. I'm open for questions anytime.
So I don't see any at the moment. So I would hand over to Chris and have him tell us a bit about the AdmaComs of last year, which were under the particular difficulty of, as in 2020 actually, of not being held live, but remotely, completely remotely.
Thanks, Oliver. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris, project manager and finance lead at Inam, to those who might not know me here. For those who don't know, Inam has been running an annual accelerated program since 2016 called the Advanced Materials Competition, or AdmaCom for short, with the program designed to meet the specific needs of startups under the broad banner of advanced materials. During normal times, we invite 10 to 12 participating startups to fly to Berlin from all over the world in order to take part in an intense in-person 2-week program. Over the course of the program, the startups are put through their paces in IP, investor workshops, as well as pitch trainings, whilst the highlight of the program, according to most participants, are the one-on-one mentoring sessions with experts from the Inam ecosystem, where the startups typically receive useful feedback to help move their businesses and technologies forward. Finally, at the end of the program, we hold a demo day where all the startups pitch to a live audience and receive feedback on their pitches from an expert jury. But as Oliver alluded to earlier, given the circumstances surrounding the coronavirus in 2021, we were unable to hold an in-person AdmaCom. However, we were able to hold 2 online versions of AdmaCom featuring workshops and mentoring sessions via Zoom, as well as a demo day, which we live streamed to YouTube. If you just go to the next slide there, Oliver. So we had 2 cohorts in 2021, and the first cohort took place in spring and featured 11 promising startups from 9 different countries, which you can see on screen now. And whilst we believe that the most important prize is simply the knowledge, experiences, and connections gained from taking part in AdmaCom, we do also award 3 different prizes to participating startups at the demo day. First of all, the Mentor's Choice Award, which goes to the startup that received the highest overall feedback scores from their one-on-one mentoring sessions during the program. Secondly, the Crowd's Choice Award, which is voted by the live audience at the demo day. And finally, the overall winner as voted by the expert jury at the demo day. So during the spring cohort, as you can see on screen, the Mentor's Choice went to Laos from Ireland, the Crowd's Choice won by Compare from Switzerland, and the overall winner was Grown Valve from right here in Berlin. And if we just go to the next slide, Oliver. And the second cohort took place in autumn 2021 and featured another 11 innovative startups, this time hailing from 6 different countries. And during this cohort, the Mentor's Choice Award went to Immaterial from the UK. Crowd's Choice was won by Expectinx from Belgium, and the overall winner this time went to Faradaic from Germany. And all of the Admicom startups that you've seen on screen there have remained in our ecosystem. So if you'd like to learn more about the cohorts in 2021, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Inam team. And finally, as Oliver will mention in the next section, applications are open for Admicom 2022, taking place in spring, which we hope to hold in a hybrid format. And yeah, we'll learn more about that in the next session. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks a lot for that. I think the challenge of the hybrid Admicom, besides the fact that, of course, networking is more difficult and group work and workshop is more difficult, was specifically in this October one, the time zones, the different time zones that people were from, because initially we had a spread from the US to Singapore, which I think would have been really, really difficult to maneuver. That is, of course, also easier if you're on one spot in Berlin as before. Then we'll move on and we start to look ahead into the future, what's coming up in 2022. And I think the biggest change has already been mentioned by Ferdinand in his initial welcoming words. Now, as you know, or as those that have been following Inam for a while know, it's basically grown around the advanced materials competition. We've run 7 of these competitions since 2016. And as Chris already described very well, had a very strong focus on really helping startups in a very short period of time to gain as much knowledge, expertise, and connections to move forward in the next steps. We've learned, of course, over time that the evolution of a startup needs obviously different types of expertise and different types of knowledge at different points in that evolution. So what we've started, or what we're starting to do, is split our Admicom this year and focus in the first one, which is coming up end of April, beginning of May, on the, let's say, earlier stage startups, and the second one, which is going to take place in October, we'll be focusing on those startups that are gearing up towards a, let's say, structured funding round. It doesn't necessarily have to be Series A. Oftentimes a late seed round is equally structured. But we've learned, and obviously many of you know who've gone through this, the needs of startups in that phase are much different to that. And then the biggest news, and also the biggest change, of course, is the extension of our footprint along the startup lifecycle into the very early seed, i.e. those startups that might not have even been founded, i.e. startup founders that may just come out of research institutes and have a good idea, maybe have some sort of lab prototypes, semi-validated. And here comes our advanced materials lab, which is basically offering them a number of things. We're running this together with the IRIS lab, or Humboldt University, and of that, the IRIS lab, as well as the High Sprint lab in Adlershof. And with these partners, we're able to help entrepreneurs go through the very early phases, not only by offering them guided access to the lab space and all the equipment that is in this very, very impressive new IRIS lab in Adlershof. It's, I think, not yet officially open, but once it is, I think it's even if you're not really into this kind of instruments and technicalities thing, I think it's really worthwhile dropping by and get a glimpse, because it's so cutting edge, it's so novel, it's so impressive what has been built up there. Anyways, so our stipends, or the people that receive our stipends will be able to use the instruments there and work on their prototype, validate it, test it, refine it, etc., etc. On top of that, we're able to offer them a stipend per month, 2,000 euros to cover their living expenses, which will also be of great help, of course, when you're in your early phases of your startup. And all this is complemented by lots and lots of training, mentoring on all kinds of topics, which I come to in a second. Now, we have 2 cohorts start and places are limited. That is due to the fact that of course, the labs have a limited capacity, but also because this has been funded by the Berlin Senate, we only have a limited budget for the stipends we can expand. So we have 2 cohorts. One is starting in April, the other one in June, both running for 12 months, and deadlines are end of February for the April cohort, and 2 months later, obviously, i.e. end of April for the June cohort. We have already applications come in, and I'm very glad to say also internationally, which generally is a great thing, with a small complication, which I'll come to in a second. Now, what kind of applicants do we want, do we need, and which types do we have to look at? Now, it's basically age and level of experience is completely irrelevant. The important thing is that they're in advanced materials insofar as that the labs can offer them the instruments that they would need. It wouldn't make sense to apply for this or to go into this stipend program when actually there's no relevant instruments in the labs. That having said that, our partners from Humboldt University have assured me that due to the breadth of material and instruments that are there, they can cater for almost all cases, conceivable cases in the advanced material space. The second thing is perhaps a bit more problematic. The recipients of the stipend and thereby participants of the program need to be resident at the time of receiving the stipend in Berlin. So actually does their company, if it has been founded already. If it has been founded, and that's another slight complication, it must not be older than 3 months at the time of applying to the program. And the age is measured from the time they register with the commercial registry, i.e. the Gewerbezulassung in German, until, as I said, the application. If you have a company that is registered elsewhere, you can move it to Berlin, of course. That's not too costly, but always given the fact that it's not older than 3 months. If you are in the process of thinking about founding elsewhere, you might want to consider and talk to us before on the whether it's feasible to have you on the ATMA program, and then maybe just found in Berlin. Per team, we envisage that we fund 3 founders, so that you have 3 guys, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 3 people, obviously. So if there's just one person having a great idea and wanting to work on it, then that's equally fine. What cannot be done, so neither by their own company nor by others, they should be employed. The stipend should be viewed as a full-time job, and people should be spending an equivalent amount of time on it. We should not be looking at technologies that haven't really reached technology readiness level 2. So from 2, we start considering, ideally you start with technology readiness 3, and you're not farther than technology readiness level 4, which is technology validated in the lab, which is one of the things that you could potentially do in the course of the stipend. Having said that, of course, in each case is individual, and of course we are happy to discuss your ideas with us when you want to discuss it. So in case you have any potentially interesting idea or suitable idea for the lab, do let us know and we'll have a discussion. The other exclusive or excluding factor is that if you have received any other founding stipend, such as Exist or from another Berlin Startup Stipend program, you can unfortunately not join our program. Hence, it's really meant to be for the very early stage startups. Now, what's contained in the program, obviously, the key is the technical product development. And here we will be able to provide the cohorts with 2 technical mentors who will, in the initial stages, develop a technological milestone plan with them or action plan for the year. But there's also lots of other training that is necessary for setting up your business and your team, as a matter of fact, including, of course, how to set up a business from a legal perspective, how to develop your financial plans, etc., how you build up your team, how to get investor ready, but also how to secure potential finances in the future, not only from investors, but also perhaps from other sources of funding. And again, Berlin here is a very good location for high-tech or deep tech startups, as there are a number of interesting funding programs available that could be used after you've left or graduated from the ATMA lab. On top of that, besides the technical mentoring, which I mentioned already, we have business mentors also that will accompany you through the year. And we'll be able to also provide technical expertise in the areas of business, finance, IP, etc., once you need it. We have the following timelines. As I said, there is an online application form. Before filling that in, you can also just drop us an email and perhaps briefly discuss if there's any point of concern that might preclude you from actually being accepted, so you don't waste the time on filling in the form. The application form really is, the key questions are asked there, but it's also about getting an idea about your idea, your innovation, and being able to match it with the instruments that we have in the lab. Then we carry out interviews and do reference checks, probably until, or the latest until March 15th, after which you'll be awarded the contract. Of course, it is on a rolling basis, meaning that if you apply early, we'll deal with your application early, and you might end up having the contract much earlier than indicated here, which then also helps with planning the future steps, which in particular is important if you consider relocating to Berlin. So much about the ATMA lab. I'm happy to take questions around this. If there are any in the future or after the webinar here, please reach out, and we're of course happy to help you navigate the application process and all the ins and outs of what can be done and what should be done on the program. What I want to do before we move on into the breakout rooms is give you a short overview of what is coming up over the next, let's say, 5 months, actually, in the first half of 2022. As indicated, we are hoping to move hybrid as soon as possible. I think hybrid will be staying with us, which is good, because we can then, being an international network, incorporate members that are not present in Berlin. But for those that are in Berlin or like traveling to Berlin, of course, we hope to see them either in our Inam office in Mitte, or else if we are at an outside location. But this information will then be presented with respect to the individual events. Now, this month is really focusing on Explorasia. We've had this morning actually a pitch competition with a number of great startups. with partners in China, and we have heard very, very interesting pitches. Robert actually also has presented there, and next week, end of next week, we'll hear about the winners that have been selected by the Chinese partners. We have been running this program for a number of years now, and it's been a huge success. It's obviously been even more successful when one was able to travel, because these pitch days used to take place in live format. But unfortunately, of course, it hasn't been possible to run in the traditional setup for 2 years now. We'll have another event with Crosby on Japanese startups, where we'll present a number of really interesting Japanese startups from Japan to our members, and they can then think about whether the technologies that the startups have developed make sense to be looked at in greater detail, or advance with joint projects. As I said, at the end of next week, we'll have then the winner announcement of the China pitch competition. February is going to be a month where we'll be focusing on ramping up all the programs. So we have our regular member meetings, founders hours, and the board meeting, of course, but no public event. It's really a month where we want to make sure that both AtmaCom and AtmaLab are really well prepared this year, and we'll be working on getting the startups ready for the programs, as well as our contributors to the programs ready. Then in March again, we start with Expo Asia, and have 2 events, one on Singapore and one on Japan in the month. And in between, and before that, the date still has to be adjusted. We have our second investors workshop on the topic of venture debt, most likely with our member and partner, Weidner Rechtsanwälte. Later on in the month, we have 2 other events that in a way are connected and touch upon, on the one hand, on the topic of tech needs analysis. It's going to be a roundtable, which will be hosted by Eric Pastor from our member Chemcode. And here we'll be looking at how large organizations determine their tech needs and what can potentially be improved in doing so. A week later, roughly, 2 weeks later, roughly, we have another event on tech transfer with our member Nanu Gune and the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft Germany, where we look at various ways of tech transfer and also do a matchmaking exercise where basically in breakout rooms, brainstorming can occur on a number of select problems or challenges that our members see that they would like to solve, and then that can be discussed with attendance from the startup space or from the research community space, to be able to maybe develop some ideas in that. So here's a small call to action in relation to this. If there is, from a corporate or mid-sized company members, if there is any tech problem to which you would like to have a breakout room in the context of this event, please reach out, and we'll discuss how we can best prop this up. Now, for April, before Easter, obviously, we've also planned an Investors Day. We'll be inviting startups that are looking or preparing to start fundraising, and of course, our investor community, and hope to make lots of good matches there. In comparison to our AtmaCom Investors Day, this is really not just practice. This is for real. So if you're in the startup space and you're gearing up for a round, please reach out and let us know. Of course, we'll be advertising these events all along, and you'll be made aware of them as you look at our website and our social media channels. Finally, then in late April, our AtmaCom starts on the 25th. That's 1 week after Easter break. And we are hoping, as Chris said, that particularly the latter half or the last third of the ATMACOM will be held in part in presence in Berlin. So hopefully the Investors Day, a couple of sessions, but also, of course, the demo day will be live in Berlin. Of course, we'll be presenting it also online, but the key thing is to get people together again and have the presentations in front of a hopefully huge audience. And finally, for this month, we have Investor Workshop number 3, which is going to focus on asset financing with Kreska Nicholson, a longstanding VC advisor and investor, now managing her own corporate finance company, who will be talking about asset financing and particularly revenue-based financing models, which they are propagating and bringing to the market. So very, very interesting, very interesting topic here to be learned about in late May. Of course, as I said, we have our members meetings and our founders hours every month. Next one actually is taking place, Founders Hour. Next one is taking place tomorrow at 4. So if you have any topic to discuss or just want to share ideas or just want to socialize, please drop by. The basic setup is you share your lowlight and your highlight, and potentially you also bring an ask to the table. So that is kind of the contents, and obviously the more the merrier, and the better the opportunities to connect with others that might have the solutions to the issues that you might be facing. Now, I want to close here, maybe saying that, of course, some events for the next half year, the one or the other might be coming up, especially with the roundtables. It's sometimes not so plannable because, as I said, it's something that also is triggered by members, and they occasionally come up, which is completely fine, of course, with ideas, and then we'll try to squeeze it into the schedule as much as we can. If you have questions on that, of course, and if you have ideas, please do reach out, and we'll try to make it happen in the next months. Now, I think it's the time to start the networking.
Oliver?
Yes.
Oliver, I actually have a question right now, which might be interesting for other people as well. Thank you for the introduction of the interesting ATMA Lab. And one question in this regard, I find it amazing and really good that by doing something like ATMA Lab, we also get, let's say, very young entrepreneurs, very fresh ideas into the network. Will there be also a sort of Inam networking day where we, the other Inam members, are able to get to know these people who are taking part in the ATMA Lab program?
Absolutely. There's going to be various interlinkages between the Inam network and the ATMA Lab participants. So on the one end, of course, we would want to, for inspirational purposes, we want to invite them to the ATMACOM demo day. That's certainly one thing that will happen, but there will also be a dedicated session with them. On top of that, of course, our members are most welcome to provide mentors for the startups. So once we have the batches ready, we'll circulate it, the participants amongst our members, and then basically if there's somebody or some company that you find extremely interesting, you can think about whether you want to mentor them for a year. And mentoring, I should say, here is probably a session a month or something like that.
Great, thanks.
I like to add to that, Willem, because it was an important question, and I think it clarifies a few things. I think the benefit of this ATMA Lab is, well, it gets a little money in a very early stage, and that's important for entrepreneurs in the early stage so that they can pay their rents and everything. So this is an important element, but to us, equally and maybe more important is that they get scientific support, technical, practical, scientific, interdisciplinary support of people that have experience in this field and know the infrastructure in this case in Adlershof, where there is infrastructure of pretty much everything you can think of. is available in the science field here, and we know from so many startups in the very early stages to having access to this type of experience is absolutely critically important. And last not least, what Oliver mentioned is it gives us the chance, us as a network partners, people like you, people like me, and from other companies here, it gives us the chance to mentor them for a longer period before they are making the first 3-4 bigger mistakes. It gives us a chance to help them to make mistakes. No, seriously, the continuous mentoring is something where Inam Network has always been very good and very strong at. And here is a chance now to start at the cradle very, very early. And I would just ask around to all of us as we are sitting around here, this is the moment you should not miss.